It's December 26th, and you're staring at your investment app, noticing silver feels strangely quiet right after Christmas. Your hands aren't shaking from losses, but from a quiet feeling that something important is about to happen. If you've ever sensed markets going silent before major moves, gently tap like so this reaches others today. Comment below whether you're holding silver, watching carefully, or feeling confused about what comes next. If someone you care about feels stressed about money lately, sharing this video can be a small act of kindness. This channel avoids hype and panic, so consider subscribing if calm explanations help you think clearly. My name is Max, and years ago I learned that quiet markets can be more dangerous than obvious crashes. Back then, I believed no price movement meant safety, and that assumption cost me far more than money. What I didn't understand yet was liquidity, and how markets behave when key participants step away. Right now, silver isn't acting unusual because of price, but because of who isn't trading. Between Christmas and New Year's, most institutional traders and market makers leave their desks. The silver market stays open, but runs mostly on automated systems and minimal human oversight. This period is called Ghost Week, when liquidity across commodity markets drops sharply every year. Liquidity simply means how easily buyers and sellers trade without causing sudden price jumps. When liquidity is strong, even large trades barely move prices, keeping markets calm and stable. So when liquidity disappears, small orders can push prices dramatically within minutes. This matters because silver is entering Ghost Week with serious unresolved pressure underneath. Massive futures positions couldn't be closed before the holidays and are now frozen in place. Those positions sit quietly, waiting for liquidity to return and force the market to react. Understanding this setup matters far more right now than guessing whether silver looks expensive. To understand the risk, you first need to know how silver futures actually work beneath the surface. A futures contract is simply a promise to buy or sell silver at a later date. When traders close positions, those promises disappear and pressure is released from the market. But right now, an unusually large number of silver futures contracts remain open and unresolved. Around 145,000 contracts are still active, representing hundreds of millions of ounces. That amount of silver is worth over $50 billion at current prices. Under normal conditions, many of these positions would have been closed before the holidays. This year they weren't, and that detail changes everything about how silver can move next. The reason is simple but uncomfortable. There isn't enough physical silver available at current prices. Closing a futures position often requires sourcing real metal, and the physical market is extremely tight. When buyers can't find metal easily, they delay closing contracts and pressure quietly builds. Meanwhile, the traders who normally absorb this pressure are away from their desks. That leaves automated systems managing massive positions without human judgment or flexibility. Algorithms don't think about supply shortages or future consequences. They follow preset rules. When price moves hit certain levels, those systems react automatically and instantly. In thin markets, those automatic reactions can push prices much further than anyone expects. This is how quiet markets suddenly turn into violent ones without warning. And silver already has the kind of underlying imbalance that makes these moves especially dangerous. To see why, we need to look beyond trading screens and into the physical silver supply itself. Because the real problem with silver didn't start this year or even last year. Silver has been running a supply deficit for several years, meaning more silver is used than produced. This deficit isn't a theory or opinion. It's documented by industry reports tracking global production and demand. Since 2018, the world has consumed hundreds of millions more ounces than mines supplied. Each year, that shortfall quietly stacks on top of the previous year like unpaid credit card balances. Global silver mine production has stayed mostly flat despite rising demand across multiple industries. The reason is simple. Silver mining is slow, expensive, and rarely the main target of new projects. Most silver is produced as a byproduct of copper, lead, and zinc mining operations. You can't just decide to mine more silver unless other metal prices also justify expansion. Even when prices rise, developing a new mine takes many years before any silver reaches markets. According to industry data, that timeline averages 6 to 7 years from discovery to production. This means silver supply cannot respond quickly to sudden increases in demand. When demand jumps faster than supply can adjust, pressure builds instead of balancing naturally. For years, that pressure has been absorbed quietly through inventories and futures markets. But inventories are shrinking, and futures positions are now carrying much more strain. This is why silver behaves differently from assets that can quickly increase supply. You can't print silver, ship it faster, or substitute production timelines overnight. Once supply constraints reach a certain point, price becomes the only adjustment mechanism. And price adjustments in thin markets rarely happen smoothly or politely. They happen through gaps, spikes, and sudden moves that leave most people shocked. To understand why demand won't ease this pressure, we need to examine who actually uses silver. Unlike jewelry or collectibles, much of today's silver demand comes from industries that rely on it to function. Solar panel manufacturing alone consumes hundreds of millions of ounces of silver every single year. Silver is used because it conducts electricity better than almost any other affordable material. As solar technology becomes more efficient, each panel actually requires more silver, not less. Newer solar cells use significantly higher silver content to improve performance and energy output. This creates a strange situation where green energy growth directly increases silver demand pressure. According to energy projections, solar demand for silver is expected to keep rising throughout this decade. Electric vehicles add another layer of demand many investors still underestimate. Every electric vehicle uses silver in batteries, power systems, sensors, and charging components. Depending on the model, a single electric vehicle can contain 1 to 2 ounces of silver. Multiply that by millions of vehicles produced annually and the numbers grow quickly. Unlike luxury spending, manufacturers cannot easily reduce silver usage without redesigning entire products. Redesigning vehicles or solar panels takes years, not weeks, and costs billions of dollars. This makes industrial silver demand highly inflexible, even when prices rise sharply. Economists call this inelastic demand, meaning higher prices don't meaningfully reduce consumption. When demand refuses to fall and supply cannot rise, pressure has nowhere to escape. That pressure doesn't disappear. It quietly builds beneath the surface of the market. For a long time, futures markets helped absorb that stress without dramatic price moves. But during Ghost Week, those shock absorbers weaken or disappear entirely. And that's when the market structure itself starts doing dangerous things to prices. During Ghost Week, trading volume across precious metals drops sharply, leaving markets far thinner than normal conditions. With fewer active participants, order books lose depth, making prices far more sensitive to even moderate buying pressure. In these thin markets, a single large buy order can unexpectedly push prices several percent higher. Industrial buyers are not trading for profit. They buy silver because production schedules require physical delivery. When physical silver becomes difficult to source, those buyers are forced into futures markets to secure supply. Futures markets during Ghost Week lack enough liquidity to absorb aggressive industrial buying smoothly. Each forced purchase pushes prices higher, often moving markets dramatically within just a few minutes. Those sudden price jumps trigger stop losses placed by traders holding large short positions. Many of those short positions are controlled by automated systems, rather than human decision makers. When stops are triggered, algorithms respond instantly by buying, adding even more upward pressure. This creates a powerful feedback loop where buying forces additional buying without emotional judgment. The market begins moving violently not because of headlines but because of mechanical reactions. Similar liquidity-driven feedback loops caused extreme price moves in other commodity markets historically. Those past events didn't start with panic. They began quietly while most investors weren't paying attention. By the time prices looked obviously extreme, reacting emotionally often made outcomes significantly worse. This is why understanding market structure matters more than predicting exact short-term price targets. The silver market is small enough that these feedback loops can overwhelm normal trading behavior. When liquidity finally returns, unresolved pressure rarely disappears calmly, it releases suddenly and forcefully. That release usually appears as price gaps rather than smooth, orderly upward movements. These gaps are what shock investors most, especially those relying only on traditional technical analysis. Many investors assume higher prices will automatically reduce demand, but silver does not behave that way today. For industrial users, silver is not optional. Without it, production lines slow down or shut entirely. Solar manufacturers cannot simply use less silver without sacrificing efficiency and losing competitive contracts. Electric vehicle makers cannot remove silver without redesigning systems that took years and billions to develop. Medical equipment and electronics rely on silver's unique properties that cannot be cheaply replaced. This makes much of silver demand economically inelastic, even when prices rise sharply. Inelastic demand means buyers must keep purchasing regardless of short-term price pain. When demand refuses to fall and supply cannot rise, price becomes the only adjustment mechanism left. That adjustment does not happen gradually in stressed markets. It happens suddenly through gaps. This is why silver often appears calm, right before experiencing sharp, confusing price moves. Most people interpret that calm as stability, when it is often the opposite. Underneath the surface, pressure continues building quietly as positions remain unresolved. Futures contracts eventually must be rolled, closed, or settled, forcing action at inconvenient times. When many participants are forced to act simultaneously, markets lose their ability to absorb trades. This loss of absorption capacity is what transforms normal volatility into dangerous instability. It's similar to traffic suddenly bottlenecking when several lanes close without warning. Cars don't speed up, they slam brakes, creating chain reactions behind them. Financial markets behave similarly when liquidity vanishes and forced actions collide. Silver is currently positioned for exactly this kind of mechanical chain reaction. To understand how extreme it could become, we need to examine recent historical examples. In March 2022, nickel shocked markets with a sudden squeeze driven by liquidity collapse globally. Prices doubled within days, not because demand exploded, but because sellers disappeared when positions were forced violently worldwide. Trading was halted, rules were changed overnight, and many participants learned markets break under extreme liquidity conditions. Silver is smaller than oil or nickel markets, which means pressure concentrates faster and moves harder during thin liquidity. When price gaps appear, investors often freeze, unsure whether to chase, sell, or wait as volatility spikes suddenly. Industrial buyers don't freeze because delaying purchases can halt factories and cost millions daily in lost revenue streams. That difference in behavior explains why industrial demand can overpower financial hesitation very quickly during tight market conditions. As liquidity returns after holidays, institutions test prices, probing for sellers who might emerge at higher levels first. If sellers don't appear, institutions are forced to chase prices higher to secure exposure quickly without hesitation whatsoever. Chasing creates visual momentum on charts, attracting traders who amplify moves without understanding underlying market structure forces. This shift marks the moment speculation joins necessity, accelerating price discovery dramatically in stressed commodity markets worldwide today. At that point, traditional valuation debates lose relevance as urgency replaces patience among participants, facing real deadlines now. Silver's structure makes these transitions abrupt, leaving little time for comfortable decision-making during fast market repricing events. That's why understanding mechanics beforehand matters more than reacting emotionally afterward when volatility explodes without warning signs present. This knowledge doesn't guarantee profits, but it reduces panic when markets behave irrationally during liquidity-driven dislocations events. Panic causes investors to sell lows or chase highs at the worst moments during rapid silver price swings. Calm understanding allows better position management, even when outcomes remain uncertain in volatile commodity market environments like silver. This brings us to how investors can think about positioning without predictions in unstable liquidity-driven markets today. The goal is not guessing tops or bottoms, but surviving volatility with discipline and risk awareness intact consistently. Because the next phase matters more for behavior than exact price levels during potential silver market repricing episodes. In markets like this, the most important skill is managing positions, not predicting exact future prices. Large gaps can move in your favor overnight, then reverse partially when profit-taking hits thin liquidity. Without preparation, those swings feel chaotic and emotional, even if your original thesis remains correct. This is why leverage becomes especially dangerous during periods of unstable liquidity and forced price discovery. A small price move in silver can translate into massive account swings when leverage is involved. Many traders underestimate how quickly gains turn into margin calls during fast-moving commodity markets. Physical silver premiums often reveal stress long before futures prices visibly react. When people pay large premiums for physical metal, they value possession more than paper contracts. Historically, physical markets lead futures during supply shortages, not the other way around. When futures prices lag rising physical premiums, they are usually mispriced temporarily. That mispricing doesn't resolve slowly. It resolves suddenly once liquidity allows repricing. Mining stocks behave differently from silver itself, despite appearing closely related to many investors. Miners are businesses with costs, political risks, and operational constraints beyond metal prices alone. During sharp silver spikes, mining stocks sometimes lag or fall due to regulatory and taxation fears. This surprises investors who assume miners always move directly with metal prices. Understanding these differences helps avoid emotional mistakes during fast market moves. None of this requires perfect timing. only awareness of structural risks and volatility. The next several weeks matter because industrial buying cycles restart aggressively after holiday shutdowns. Solar manufacturing ramps early each year ahead of spring installation demand worldwide. Automotive production schedules also resume quickly, increasing silver demand simultaneously across industries. All of this demand arrives within weeks, not months, compressing pressure into a very short market window. This is why timing matters more than long-term forecasts during liquidity-stressed market environments like silver. When multiple buyers must act at once, markets stop behaving politely or logically. Price moves become messages, signaling urgency rather than fair value or equilibrium. Most people feel uncomfortable acting when prices already moved, even if conditions still favor movement. That discomfort is natural, but markets rarely reward comfort during periods of structural imbalance. Years ago, I ignored similar signals because prices already felt too high to act confidently. Watching from the sidelines felt safer until prices moved so fast that safety disappeared entirely. That experience taught me markets don't wait for emotional readiness or perfect confirmation. They move when pressure demands release, regardless of how prepared individuals feel internally. This isn't about convincing you silver must rise or predicting dramatic numbers confidently. It's about recognizing when markets stop behaving normally and start behaving mechanically. Mechanical markets punish hesitation and overconfidence equally, rewarding preparation instead. Understanding structure doesn't remove risk, but it reduces fear when volatility arrives suddenly. Fear causes people to abandon plans, ignore discipline, and make decisions they later regret deeply. Calm awareness helps you respond instead of react when markets move faster than expected. If someone you care about feels anxious about money, investing, or uncertainty, this understanding can help them. Sharing this video isn't advice. It's offering clarity when confusion feels overwhelming. Sometimes the most valuable help is helping someone feel less lost during uncertain financial moments. If this helped you think more clearly, share it with someone who needs calm perspective right now. Markets don't move to punish people. They move because pressure eventually demands release. Silver right now sits at a point where structure matters more than opinions or short-term predictions. Whether prices move higher or lower, understanding this moment helps you avoid being blindsided. Most financial stress comes not from losses, but from confusion and feeling unprepared when change arrives. Knowledge doesn't eliminate risk, but it replaces fear with context and clearer decision-making. If this video helped you feel calmer or more aware, that matters more than any price target. Think of someone you know who feels overwhelmed by money, investing, or an uncertain future right now. Sharing this video is not telling them what to do, but reminding them they are not alone. Sometimes understanding the system helps people breathe easier, even before anything actually changes. And if you want more calm, honest market conversations, subscribe and stay with us moving forward.